We will start our meeting today reading the message from the book Christian Agenda, Appearances. Do not incriminate the brother who appears to be wealthier. Perhaps they are merely a slave to obligations. Do not condemn the companion who was raised to a position of authority. He is probably a mere debtor to the multitude. Do not envy the one who administers while you obey. Frequently, they are suffering a painful process. Do not disdain the colleague who is conducted to greater prominence. The responsibility that weighs on his shoulders can be an incessant torment. Do not censure the woman who dresses luxuriously. For her, luxury is probably a bitter trial. Do not criticize the polite manner who seem insincere at first sight. Possibly, they are avoiding serious crimes or greater discouragements. Do not fret over the ill-humored friend. You do not know all of his inner difficulties. Do not become displeased with the person whose conversation is futile. You were also like that when you lacked experience. Do not mutter against the inconsiderate young. Help them whenever you can, remembering that you were once considered to be irresponsible by many people. Do not be intolerant in any situation. The clock ticks incessantly, and you will likewise face numerous difficult problems along your own path, as well as on the paths of those you love.
Dear Father Lord, we thank you today for this moment of learning the Spiritism, inspiring lives. This is the message of the Gospel, the message of Jesus, the message of God. Thank you so much to enlighten our hearts and minds, and for the consoling that this message brings to us. Thank you for Jesus Christ, our guide and model for all his example. And thank you so much for all the spiritual benefactors who came here, who work hard by dedication and inspiring us. So be it.
Welcome all of us in this study as we carry on as learners about Spiritism, understanding that Spiritism is a message that consoles, that brings hope, that inspires us within the natural laws in the universe. We are all learners, we are all brothers and sisters in humanity, all invited, ourselves and those in spirit, for us to take this opportunity and invest in our learnings, in our studies, so that we can also become more aware of ourselves as immortal beings within the natural laws in the universe. And we are here to learn in order to acknowledge ourselves, to become more aware, and also to understand what happiness can be in our lives from a transpersonal, holistic viewpoint as Spiritism presents us. And with that in mind, we carry on today studying about self-knowledge and happiness. What do we understand about self-knowledge and happiness? Are we happy?
I think we are studying about not the happiness that we might think is the happier moments of our lives. Perhaps we are talking about real happiness that comes from within our souls, and within the following God's laws and self-awareness of who we are and where we want to be.
Okay, so with the viewpoint that we all have been created simple and ignorant by God, who is the creator of everything and everyone in the universe, and is a creator and father of love. With that in mind, we carry on with the Spirit's book, learning a bit on the question 614. when Allan Kardec, the educator and philosopher who asked the Enlightened Spirits, asking what is meant by natural law. And then the Enlightened Spirits, who are enlightening all of us, helping us to learn, to grow, to mature, to evolve beyond the materiality, beyond the physicality, they say to us all, natural law is God's law. It alone ensures the happiness of human beings. It shows them what they should or should not do, and that they only suffer when they deviate from it. So what do we understand about this question and the teachings of the superior spirits based on self-knowledge and happiness? What is our learning? What can we say according to our words? All of us cooperating in this process, how could we say that? How do we understand it?
Using the laws of God as a guidance for us to model our behavior is the way for us to find happiness. But we need to understand, what does it mean?
Yes.
Use God's laws.
Yes, first I think we need to learn when they say natural law is God's law. Full stop, short sentence. Oh my God, what do they mean by that? Now we need to start to think, because Spiritism is constantly helping us to learn to think for ourselves according to the natural laws, because we have been created simple and ignorant by God, but we bring the natural laws within. So God's laws are the natural laws in the universe. They are equal for every creature, wherever we are, correct? So what do we understand now? By God's laws, by God law, and the law in laws, natural laws in the universe. What do we understand about God's law? Just imagine, I never heard of it. What would you say?
I was just like comparing and contrasting God's laws, happiness, and Jesus. Because the way Jesus taught us about God's laws is for us to constantly be practicing the virtues. But it doesn't mean the scenario, the situation would be ideal in the sense it will be smooth. Because if we, on the other hand, if we think about happiness in the material way, it means everything is fine, we have no problems, everything is going really well, but it's not what Jesus, which was constantly living according to God's laws, was experiencing his passage on earth.
So although I may be in my selfish, prideful state of mind, egoistic way, I may say, well, I choose to do what I want to do and everything is okay. It's not okay according to the natural laws, self-knowledge and happiness. Because sooner or later, I will free myself from the physical body, or even in the physical body, I will be asked, but through the natural laws, which are internal, to deal with the consequences that I create when I disobey the natural laws, okay? So we are only really happy here when we choose to train the virtues, and you rightly said, sometimes the situations for the egoistic part or the child within is not favorable. I feel pressurized within because I came to really diminish the pressure internally. Now, learning about the natural laws and using my free will and developing the virtues. Because as more as we develop the virtues within, we diminish the internal pressure that we create, or it emerges in our unconscious mind for us to re-educate ourselves according to God's laws, which Jesus is our model, and he was constantly obeying what God wanted him to do and not what we want to do. Correct? What else? What comes to you?
For me, draw my attention about it alone ensures the happiness of human beings. So it's like saying that's the only way. There is no excuses or anything like that. So we must pay really attention on this and try our best, the self-knowledge that our happiness will come when we follow the God's law, which are the natural laws.
Mm-hmm. Yes, happiness for all of us is a consequence, correct? It doesn't depend on having things. It depends for me to get to know the natural laws, to accept them, and to choose to practice them. And as a consequence, because we are at the beginning of our journey, we are not perfect, but we are perfecting ourselves. When we choose to do what Jesus asks us to do, what is according to the natural laws, we are blessed with the relative happiness here on earth.
If we had to define happiness according to Spiritism, what would that be? For example, is it a feeling? Is it a sentiment? What is that?
We could say it in different words. For sure, it would be a state of consciousness, a state of mind, which means peace in the mind, peace in the heart. So it's what we say in different words when we, at the end of the day, when we behaved, when we choose in the right way according to the natural laws that we bring within, but we are choosing to train, even when the external situations seem from the inner child is unfavorable, we understand that it's not an I overcome that. On the end of the day, when I go to sleep and put my head on a pillow, I will be at peace. Because I did precisely what I'm supposed to do according to the natural laws. But if I don't, then I will be in conflict. So happiness is a state of mind which is a consequence of me as a creature learning to obey what my Creator, God who is love, created for my own happiness. Because we all have been created by God in order to really, truly be happy one day. And we are on the journey of it. Because the pinnacle of our journey is plenitude, which means real, full happiness. Is that making sense? Yeah. How can spirits deviate from the natural law? Because it says an end here, and that they only suffer when they deviate from it, from the natural laws. How can we deviate from it?
When we are rebellious, not obedient.
When we are not obedient, because we are rebellious, because we are prideful, because we are selfish. And in which way could we be selfish? That perhaps I may think that I'm not. As Cynthia said previously, sometimes the situations, they look, or we think we are okay, but under the inspiring lessons from the superior spirits, which bring the message of Jesus, which brings the word of God towards humanity, which are all of us, how would I know that I'm deviating? Which kind of behaviors? What would that be? Because sometimes we could be deviating without knowing, isn't it? So how could we be deviating from the natural law, God's law, through our behaviors?
When our goals are directed towards selfishness,
Okay.
it's very important to have a goal, of course, but it needs to be linked or in accordance with what is good for everyone, not just for us.
Correct. So really learn to be sincere and loyal to what we agreed in the spiritual world to carry on doing on earth. Otherwise, we are deviating from it. Isn't it free will excuse? Yes, we do have free will, but it doesn't mean that I'm free to do what I want. If I want to evolve, if I want to be really happy, if I want to become stable, I only will be stable emotionally when I learn to be sincere and honest according to God's laws. If I lie, deal with the consequences of the insecurity, because that is shaking my basis. Yeah? Is that making sense? Other ways, other behaviors that we can be deviating from it? I may be, let's give examples, and you correct me if I'm wrong. I may be in a relationship, I'm married, and I choose that in the spiritual world to come back in order to work my own real happiness. And then I choose to come with a dear one that I need to learn to respect, to learn, and to live in a fraternal way. And then I'm married, I have children, things go, and the experience moves forward, and suddenly I'm walking around in this beautiful earth, which is the planet Earth, and then I may feel attracted to somebody else. And I leave everything behind. I am in favor of deviating from the natural law. I'm deviating because I didn't came to do that. As immortal being, I know that I have my unconscious mind, and I live with a lot of beings already, and I may be now married, and I haven't learned the ethical values. That is my ethical responsibility with myself, and everything and everyone who comes after that, no, because I'm committed with myself in a sincere way. That making sense? Because we are tested. In terms of us to develop the real happiness, we need to pass through our tests, which are our trials. So to promote us. Yeah? Other examples, I like to work with examples on real life. Other ways that we can deviate. If I'm gossiping around people, I have that vices, that habit. Constantly gossiping around people on the back. I'm deviating or obeying God's law? Deviating. Why? Didn't God give me the free will?
But they gave us a speech, the ability to communicate, to say good things.
Precisely. Yes, God gave me the free will, but not to do what I want. That is childish for us when we study the natural laws. He gave me the free will, which is the key of my evolution and the key to reach happiness within. But I will never be happy if I gossip around and have negative thinking about other people. Then I'm deviating. God gave us a speech to use it in a constructive way, in a positive way. And our speech, our language is the consequence of what? What did Paul teach us? Who is a friend of Paul? All of us here?
St. Paul.
St. Paul? I think. What did he say? I think it was Paul, or I'm wrong. What comes through our mouth is what we are full in our hearts. So we need to learn to educate our hearts so that we can educate our language. And we also need to educate our thinking. Because if we don't learn to be in control of what we think and feel, we are handing over that power to somebody else. Could even be the disincarnate ones who don't want to see us happy because they are unhappy. So we need to be vigilant to who I'm following. Christ is inviting us in front of us. And not following those who are behind. Behind we have the duty to help and not to do what they want us to do.
And sometimes only one word can hurt so much other people's feelings, and we might not even realize that. So it's kind of subtle, but sometimes we really need to be vigilant on what we say and educate our mouths to speak fraternal.
Yes. And when I say something and I don't have the intention to hurt, and the other feel hurt, I am deviating from God's laws? No. No. But if I do it intentionally, because what counts under the natural laws is mine or intentions. If I say what I say, but I don't have the intention to harm, the other feel hurts, that is their problem. Or my problem if I feel in relation to what somebody else says. Does that make sense? That makes the difference here, yeah? The deviation has to do with the intentions, where we are mentally and emotionally. What are our intentions? According to God's evaluation, within this evolution system, what counts will always be our intentions. Because sometimes our intentions are sincere and pure, and we need to say what we need to say, and the other can feel hurt because they need to grow, or I need to grow in relation to others. As you said previously, sometimes situations may not be favorable for me because exactly what I need to embrace and develop and strengthen myself.
What is the filter we need to develop when we have to say things? We know it's right, but some people will not understand, but then we feel like a bit of sadness or a bit shaky because the other person didn't like what we said. Even when we know that we were right and it needs to be said.
What feelings did you say? What virtues? I think there are a lot of virtues. Because when we feel shaky, did Jesus feel shaky when he said what he said? Did Jesus feel shaky and stable to say what he needed to say to us for 2,000 years? No. So what do we need to learn? Because we still are not there. So which virtues do we need to develop in order to express ourselves and say what needs to be said? Humbleness first. Because up to yesterday we were just telling pride and selfishness, and we are completely unstable on our hearts. Now we start then from the bottom, humbleness. And then humbleness, which other virtue do we need to develop in order to express ourselves gradually in a more healthy way? Humbleness, sincerity, honesty according to God's laws, fraternity, observing our intentions, be clear, honest, sincere, and observing where we are in our emotions and going through gradually and here to get, because no one is perfect here. So we need to become aware. People are not perfect. Jesus is our guide, not people. That we hurt ourselves less. Is that making sense? So there is the persistence that we also need to train ourselves, because we can read books and books and books how to express myself in a correct way. But then when it comes to all the emotional side is there. Because we don't change our behaviors just reading. We need to read as we do study, but we also need to practice. And then the first times I'm shaking, the first time is whatever is there, and then it's more as we practice, more it affects our renewing on the emotional level. Is that making sense?
How do I start practicing this?
To express yourself. I think the best way to start, I would say, is to practice self-knowledge, to become aware of what I think and feel, so that in a loving way, I know where I am in my relationship with myself. If I feel hungry or if I feel whatever is there, that is my issue, has nothing to do with the other. Or if I'm thinking negative towards someone, that is my problem. So through self-knowledge, self-awareness, that I become aware, and my proposal now is self-love, to embrace me and accept me as a valuable human being, although imperfect is perfecting. So once I'm in charge of all of that, in control, then I may open my mouth, because I remember what my goal is, to express myself in a different way. And yet, when I start at the beginning doing all what I said, I still may feel shaky and unstable on the emotional level, because the emotional dimension is the last dimension that will change. But there's no other way. I will not feel confident unless I practice. I train myself. And as more as we do it, gradually we become better. As more sincere we are with ourselves, we know when we did mistakes, which are part of our learning, and we choose freely not to do that anymore. We choose freely to engage in changing ourselves in the experiences. And then we can see that day by day, we can also realize the progress that we are doing. Is that clear? Yeah. Then let's move on to the next one. In the book, Spiritual Intelligence, Michael Lewin asked the question, what is spiritual intelligence? It is a connection with a greater, deeper sense of order. And it's not an order that is being imposed from outside. It is an order that is coming from within each of us, a form of knowledge that is being revealed from within. I'm reading here, you haven't received it. Oh, let me know when that happens. Is that the same, but we just said, just saw in the question 614, just said in different words? How do we understand it? It is a connection with spiritual intelligence. Spiritual intelligence is that part of developing self-knowledge and happiness? Is that interconnected? Is it sufficient for me to develop my intellectual intelligence in order to be happy? Is it sufficient for me to develop my intellectual intelligence and emotional intelligence in order to be happy? No, to some extent it was. On the beginning of our history, intellect to kill. That was you are intellectual, you are really clever. Then we carry on evolving, and then clever beings came on the earth and teach us, no, it's not enough, only the spiritual intelligence, the intellectual intelligence. We need to develop the emotional intelligence. So we learned what? To give name to our emotions. But was that sufficient? We know already again, we know our emotions. Is that insufficient for us to be healthy? So we need now to move on, develop the spiritual intelligence. What is different on the spiritual intelligence regarding the intellectual and emotional intelligence?
I think we can still be very materialistic even if we are emotionally and intellectually intelligent. Because being emotionally intelligent means we have control, or we know how to deal with our emotions. It doesn't mean we accept we are going to experience. It doesn't mean we accept the spiritual reality that it's part of us. Mm-hmm.
So I can be very prideful in being pride.
Because when you read the books about the emotional intelligence, they say everything has to do with the chemical of the brain. It doesn't.
It goes just more or less on the body level, yeah. And then here we are invited to perceive ourselves beyond our physicality. It helps us now to go beyond, because we are immortal beings. We are essentially spirits. We have a spiritual body, and we communicate ourselves through the physical body. But when he said it is a connection with a greater, deeper sense of order. Where is that order? In my brain? No. Where is that order? Sense of order. Which is the greatest order in the universe? God. We go back to our question, 614. And then he says, and it's not an order that is being imposed from outside. What did we learn in the question 614? Where is God's laws written? In our consciousness, not inside of our physical body. Inside of our deep consciousness. And it is an order that is coming from within each of us. Why? Why?
This is the self-knowledge.
Because we are unique beings, each one of us. So if I say, no, that doesn't apply to me, that it doesn't work in that way for me, I'm lying to me, I'm not being sincere. Each one of us, because we all have been created simple and ignorant, and we bring God's laws within. When I say all of us, I mean all of us in the universe. Either us who are in the flesh, those who are without the flesh. A form of knowledge that is being revealed from within. Which sort of knowledge is that? The natural laws that we bring within. And through self-knowledge, what we are studying here is helping to awaken, to contact, to become aware. Correct? Then we carry on now. Grazi, read it for us, please. The next one.
Jesus e atualidade, Joana de Ângeles. There is only happiness in those who met with the truth, observed it, and took it as a norm of conduct.
So what do we learn now by the spiritual benefactor Joana de Ângeles in her book, Jesus e Atualidade? How do we translate her words in our own words, and helping us and helping others also in this study?
I think it's an invitation for sincerity, because first of all, she says, you need to meet with the truth, then look at it, observe it, and then took it as a norm of conduct, like practice that, so it becomes part of you.
Mm-hmm.
So first the self-knowledge, the self-awareness. Oh, I know the way to be happy is following God's laws, which is the natural law. Mm-hmm. So I have the self-awareness, I met with the truth. So then second step, I observe it, I acknowledge that, I know it's, how does it work, I study. And then as a third step, you practice.
Mm-hmm. So he eventually said there is not only happiness in those who meet the truth. Is there a connection with the question 614? Yes? What is the truth? God and God's laws. So rightly as you said, as more as we study, as more as we become aware, more we accept, more we choose freely to adapt it as a way of our behavior. Gradually. Good. And therefore we feel happy. I like this phrase here. Listen. Regarding self-knowledge and happiness. Life is like a piano. The white keys represent happiness and the black shows sadness. But as you go through life's journey, remember that the black keys also create music. How do we relate that with self-knowledge and happiness?
That's too much for me to understand.
It's too much, so we need to take bit by bit. So let's go to the first part. Life is like a piano. Do we have the picture of a piano? Okay. What is the piano about? Well, black and white keys only. Keys represent and the black sadness. What do we understand when he says here white keys represent happiness? How can we translate that? You don't have an idea? And then he says the black show sadness. Seems to me easy. It's strengths and weak points, isn't it?
What did you say, sorry? You mean this?
Wake up. Strengths and weak points. Comparison. Or strengths. And then the black shows sadness. Or weak points. Why do we feel sad? Because we are moving according to God's laws? You may still be asking, what has piano to do with God's laws? And then it says, but as you go through life's journey, remember that the black keys also create music. That bit you didn't understand. Let's see what Grazi understood by that.
I think I see as our shadows inside of each one of us. So we have white keys and we have some black keys. And I'm really happy about this phrase because the white keys are the majority. And some black keys in the middle, you see. So if you look at the big picture, it's white. But of course, there are the trials and things that we have to deal with. But the way we look at it, it's always all music.
So how can we translate here? Remember that the black keys also create music. Would it be right in saying that, remember that the black keys, which represent our shadows and limitations, also create experiences? Because we are valuable human beings, asked in an inspiring way for us to love ourselves, accept ourselves as valuable human beings who have strengths and weak points, and learn from the weak points to incorporate them and transform into strengths.
So it means they are not useless.
Yeah, Cynthia, oh, good. Now carry on. How did you start? What else comes to you? They are important. They are part of music. So we have all our limitations. Are they not part of our experiences in this process of evolution, of progress? Where we are, through self-knowledge and becoming aware what are our white keys and black keys, although we are not pianos. Is that making sense? The different aspects of our individuality. And then embracing in a loving way, music can be seen as an experience, as a free movement that we are learning to reintegrate to different aspects of us in a free will, in a free way.
So, Lebanese, how am I going to create music with sadness?
Transforming it. I'm allowed to feel sad as a immortal being. Why?
Because it's like an emotion.
It is an emotion. So in itself, sadness is not a problem. What is the problem in relation to sadness? When I get obsessed and lose myself within that. Is that making sense? Fear in itself is negative? No.
Self-awareness.
It's self-awareness. Is a self-preservation innate in us.
Defense.
But can fear be pathological? That impedes me to evolve, to grow? Yeah. Very much so. There is difference.
So it's to put the black.
Transform the black into white. And create a different image in relation to the black. Sometimes we don't want to look at our shadows because we think we are so full of light. Wrong. Because as more we become enlightened, more we embrace our shadows and are not controlled by them, but are in control of them.
It could be also because we think our shadow is something wrong.
Yes, because we may have been going through education systems throughout the different existences that didn't allow, for instance, don't cry, men don't cry. And then the spirit who is in the male position blocks the emotion. We are essentially emotional beings. We as immortal beings, either in the female or male, we can cry when it's necessary, as long as we don't cry out our eyes. So it depends how we see an experience. Clear? Yeah? So there's nothing wrong with our shadows. We still all have imperfections. We need to learn to accept us in a loving way. We are not the shadows. We are essentially beings of goodness since our creation. But when we have great pride and selfishness and we think that we are who we aren't, as Jung said, then we create masks that we want to be who we are, and then we need to deal with the pressures of these lives that we carry within. But when we, in a loving way, embrace, well, I know that I'm good in that, I know that I'm okay with that, I'm working on. Because in terms of our virtues, no one has completely developed any virtual lives. Neither me, neither you. And the shadows, they are there. And as I mentioned, through self-awareness, if we are in control of them, they will not control ourselves. And that is what, and it's more as we re-educate ourselves, we reintegrate them. So we don't need to be ashamed. We don't need to hide it from others. Okay? Carry on, sing to the next one. Okay?
The conscious being, Joana Diante, is a spirit. Happiness is not rooted in the satisfaction of any desire from the ego, because after satisfying it, manifests itself vehemently, generating anxiety and discomfort.
So what do we understand here by it?
It is the immediate satisfaction of our needs, which we wrongly think will bring happiness. For example, if I buy something now, then I will experience this 3 seconds of happiness. But then I go back to the loop of anxiety, sadness, discomfort, sometimes depression, which is not the real happiness we have been talking about.
Correct. Grazie.
I believe this is saying that, just remember something I read. When you buy a new car, you feel an excitement for 15 days. When you have coffee with your aunts or someone from your family, or maybe a family lunch on Sunday, you feel the excitement and content for 45 days. So that's what it's about. So happiness is not what the material world asks us or shows us sometimes to us to think that this is happiness. So happiness is more within ourselves and about respecting those natural laws.
So what are desires from the ego state that people may have, or us as immortal beings, as learners on earth, or not? What could be desires from the ego?
Eat too much.
Just talk about eating food, eating, cooking. There's a desire for my ill state, spiritually speaking, because I'm unbalanced. Because in reality, the eating habit has nothing to do with my body. It has to do with my psychological and emotional stability or instability, which are the desire. So I will always immediately, can we see between lines here, when we have these behaviors that they are rooted in satisfaction from any desire from the ego, we still are very in a childish position who needs the gratifications in life. Immediate gratifications based on the physical level, on the body. Now, eat. What else can we seek this satisfaction from these desires?
I will only be happy if I find a husband.
Okay, and rich and blonde, preferable car, mansions, then I will be happy. Will I be happy in that way? Never. Why? I can have temporary illusions. Why? If I come from the ego state of mind, because things do not bring meaning to my heart, don't bring fulfillment to my neediness, which are spiritual, as we saw previously in the spiritual intelligence. Yeah? So, of course, when we go through, we can have another satisfaction that a lot of people have when they are depressed or they have great difficulties in being alone because they haven't learned it. They go do what? Shopping. Then have immediate gratification. Sometimes some people, they even don't have the time to come home and they regret it. Others have the bags there for weeks. Because that will, what comes from the external element will not fulfill the needs of the soul. I need to get in contact what is the reason of my anxiety. What are the causes of my emotional discomfort? And I can be very clear here. It's not other people, it's me. It's my relationship that is poor. I need to find out in which way I am relating with me in a different way that I can choose that brings comfort, stability, calmness, And that is not related to having things, because those who don't have money, they would be deprived. Therefore, they couldn't heal themselves. And according to the question 614, which we started today, God's laws are equal for all of us. And then the Spirit's book, question 920. Susanna, read it for us, please.
Man cannot enjoy complete happiness on earth, but he can soften his trials and be happy as much as possible.
How do we understand that regarding self-knowledge and happiness? How can we translate it?
We can feel happiness if we understand, if we are grateful for what we have in the present.
Okay. Why can we, as incarnate beings, not enjoy complete happiness on earth?
I would say it's because of our imperfections. Because for every imperfection we will have like a suffering, it will bring a bad feeling. But I like when they say that he can soften his trials, because we talked about it before. We can use tools or skills we acquire to soften the trials. It doesn't mean we won't have to pass them, but we can pass and we can deal with them in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
As much as we evolve, we do it quicker, or we do it within a clever way, or we learn more,
Mm-hmm.
or we won't cry so much.
Okay. We stop crying because we start smiling and be grateful for the trials. That is maturity. That brings happiness. Yeah? So, men cannot completely enjoy happiness on earth because we are imperfect beings. We are divine beings, but we still are in perfect state, or in the scale of evolution, we are on the primitive stage yet. And we don't necessarily need to be unhappy because we have hardships or we have challenges. They are part of our learnings to be happy one day. Then he carries on, but he can soften his trials and be happy as much as possible. How much can we possibly soften our trials? Is it equal for every person? Is it? Really? Each person can soften the same level or trials?
I think it varies.
Why does it vary and why is it equal?
I think it depends on the way we look at the trials.
So it's not equal?
It's not equal.
No, it's not. Okay. So why is not?
Yeah, because it depends on our desire
To change, to soften. What does it mean? What are the tools to soften our trials in order to be happy? Resignation, humility, obedience of the God's laws. Do what I'm supposed to do and not what I want to do. And that is a free choice. It's not a pressure. I'm more wiser now, more connected within. What else did he say? Acceptance means people are who they are, things are as they are, we are as we are. Loving beings. But you don't know what the other did. That's God's problem, it's not mine. Soften means developing the virtues within us in any situation where we find ourselves uncomfortable. Because when we do that, we diminish the pressure internally. And as a consequence, we are happier. Yeah? Because of our consciousness becomes light. Then we carry on in the book with the spiritual benefactor, Joana de Angelis, the book entitled The Integral Being. And she says, relative happiness is possible for all individuals, provided that there is acceptance of events as they present themselves. You already knew that phrase, don't you, Cynthia?
I'm trying to learn this.
You are trying to learn. Okay. Do we have anything to say here, as we already covered it?
I'm living it at the moment because I work with someone, and sometimes this person doesn't behave the way I was expecting that she would behave. And then this thought came to my mind, okay, we need to accept people the way they are and try to do our best, because we might have the same result, but we cannot control.
No, we cannot control other people. Jesus is our master, remember. He never controlled us, so much so that we are more than 2,000 years here. So why would we control other people and think that we are the ones responsible for them? We are responsible to change us and cooperate for those who are willing. So when we are invited to respect people, which is part of developing the law of love within, respect means giving them the right to be where they are. Doesn't mean to accept everything that they do. That making sense? Imagine if a mom or dad would accept everything that a child does. Doesn't work like that.
And we need to think of the environment we are as well.
Precise.
My actions, like in accordance with what is expected for us to do in that environment.
Precisely, according to the natural laws. Yes. Yes. So each time when we go back on that, according to the natural laws, which is God's laws, we gradually are becoming more aware, more knowledgeable how to position ourselves. Respecting others and giving the right for them to be does not mean that I need to accept everything that they do. It's different accepting the person, giving the right as an immortal being, child of God, to do what they choose, but doesn't mean that I validate their own behavior. It's different. Is that making sense? We are here on earth to cooperate, to bring all part as part of the human family in developing goodness according to the natural laws. Gradually. And as more as we study, we know we are not very well approved by those who prefer the ignorance. Yeah?
And if I cause a conflict, I respect other people if they think different than me, but because I don't follow the same values, let's say, I can't say it's correct what they are doing. I can respect, but once it's touching my things, and for example, my family and the people around me, and if I say no, I know it will cause a conflict.
Well, change, evolution means change. Can we please everyone if we choose to do the correct way according to God's laws? Can we please everyone? Will we please everyone in our family? Did Jesus please his family? What happened to him? Even his mom didn't understand him well. We are here to do what God wants us to do, respecting others, but learning to develop our own individuality, because that is part of our trial, to evolve, to get out from the collective patterns. But quite often, sometimes when we position ourselves, that could, in family setting, for instance, we are in a different level of evolution. Some, my brothers, may not understand what I'm doing. Say, what a crazy woman. Even he's always in this Spiritist center. Now what she's thinking. I prefer to have my beer, a drink, and have my parties, and travel around. I don't want to know about these odd things. Are they entitled to think in that way? Yes. Do I need to learn to respect them in that way? Is their behavior according to God's laws? In their level of evolution, yes. Not in mine. But I need to follow my path, don't I? Haven't I been there too? In the past, yes. So each situation needs to be looked in a specific way. We don't can general things and then apply in every situation. Every situation needs to be looked according to God's laws. And according to Jesus' teachings, not all individual interpretations. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it's so challenging.
It is very challenging to discern, to know precisely what to do, because we are exactly in this, let's say, starting point of becoming aware of ourselves, aware of the natural laws. Because up to very shortly, we are one of those. Nothing to do. Life is what it is. Enjoy your life, eat as much as you want, have sex as much as you want, go with everyone. No responsibility. So it is challenging for all of us. This is why the superior spirits are constantly inviting us to carry on with these studies, because we cannot suddenly change our nature from centuries and centuries of values that we bring. We don't have that clear. And I also, when we are studying, do I learn just to listen what people say? Do I? Not necessary, because I need to listen to myself. And then it's almost like, I like to say in a way that I understand. The knowledge, we learn from each other. But as we are invited to think for ourselves, according to natural laws, I need what I'm hearing, what I'm reading. It needs to go through my internal process, and then it needs to come out in my unique understanding. And the same for all of you. So this is why virtues we cannot give to each other. Discernment, as we're talking about. We cannot give. We can read books and books about discernment. But if I don't develop self-knowledge, I will not learn to discern. I need to listen, I need to understand what are my belief systems, where I'm coming emotionally, where I am in terms of that. So I need to develop the self-reflection process. Meditate, be in contact with myself, observe my intentions, and so on and so forth.
And I think with the family as well, when we start to have a different attitude or to have a position in a different way, we have this time of turmoil, but then things will settle.
It always settles, because our life is changed. Life is changed. I went through my trials in my family. It's how we are here. If you came to be now and talk about Jesus, break through pride, selfishness, and materialism, pay the price. Rescue from yourself and move on. That is what we came to do. And we won't be applauded. Jesus wasn't applauded. But a lot of us, we prefer to be with everyone.
And
we prefer the...
as well. So they might come and go as well. So we need to be strong.
Persistence.
Persistence.
And as more as we convince ourselves what we need to do, who we are, what we do, less we are affected. The one who learns more to love herself and others is less affected by the evil of others. As we read in some books, I think we have it here even today. But it is internal testimony that we need to go through. That we free ourselves from these materialistic, egoistic, primitive references that we always still have in our unconscious. Because as we always say, we are emerging very closely from the materialistic way of living. Some of us, perhaps through different existences, already dematerialize themselves more because they choose to follow what Jesus is asking us to do. But we all will, but no one can do that for us. Then André Luiz says, Joana Jange, psychological maturity, the correct and optimistic view of existence are essential to acquire the happiness possible. What is the benefactor telling us? What do we learn here about self-knowledge and happiness? So is it possible for me to be really, truly happy if I keep on being immature psychologically? What means be immature psychologically?
We need to look after our inner child, to educate our inner child. Precisely. Immaturity is my selfish, my pride, always the ego there, the immediate gratifications. And then it says the correct and optimistic view of existence. Correct according to what? Whom? God's law. Question 614, as we started today. Optimistic view of existence. How can I be optimistic? Everything is so dark. Even the piano have dark. So how can we be optimistic here? If we are at the beginning of our journey. Go back, study the natural laws. Question 614 of the Spirit's book. Understand it more, become more aware, more conscious. Then I can be optimistic, be in this turmoil. What do the Enlightened Spirits do? They move beyond the darkness. Even if they are in, but psychically, they are beyond. We need to elevate ourselves. We need to develop our minds, our hearts in relation to the real values. Then we don't feel suffocated. Yeah? Are essential to acquire the happiness possible. Again, she says, essential, they are fundamental. It's all where we are relating with ourselves, and that can be changed. And then André Luiz says, Grazie, read it for us, please.
Every person who serves beyond duty has found a way to true happiness.
Of course, from now on, we will all be very happy now, isn't it? André Luiz is teaching us the method. So what do we understand by it when André Luiz says, every person who serves beyond duty has found a way to true happiness? How do we understand that phrase at present? Because our understanding will also be changing.
It's go the extra mile, like Jesus said.
What means the extra mile on the practical level?
If I have to wash the toilet,
wash the toilet. Yes. If you need to push the chairs in the Spiritist Center, go and do it. And honor the possibility for me to get free of mine, or rid of my pride and selfishness. Yeah? If I need to clean the center, I will do with pleasure. Because the benefactors are doing so much for me. that I get rid of my ungratefulness and learn to be grateful for any possibility to be useful in life.
Be kind at home.
Be kind at
children
home.
and husband.
Yeah.
Even if they think you're going mad.
Okay.
Yes,
Even if they think, oh, why is she so quiet now? Because I just said some very bad things. Why is she so quiet? Must be a bit, never mind what people think, but it's important what God thinks about us. Yeah, good. Then carry on. Susanna, read it for us.
Collaborating in the good for all is the way to true happiness.
That is in the book Coragem by Chico Xavier, by the Spirit Albino Teixeira. How do we translate that? I don't have time. When I retire, then I think about to work, to some charity work in the community. Is that what he's saying? Will I be happy? Yeah, but I'm working and earning a lot of money. I can travel, can go where I want. Is that not happiness? I have money to buy my clothes. I have money to go to restaurants and eat out. Is that not happiness? I just see people doing that. Please, language is given by God in order to cooperate. Cooperation for the good of all.
What you're saying is like my whole life I listen to this in every type of different, like in my work, everywhere. That's what I used to think quite a lot, and this is very new for me at the moment. So it's quite gradually we need to reflect and think about this, because every single place and people in the earth I've met until today, we thought about this.
But there are a lot of people who also think differently. It's not just Chico Xavier. Collaborating in the good for all is the way to true happiness. Are there a lot of people on earth thinking that way? What predominates, roughly speaking? Are those who already have this understanding and behave accordingly, or those in those lines that you just presented?
The second.
Why? Why do you know that it's the second? Simple. Because the majority of people on earth are unhappy. Unhappy, as you see here. Because happiness doesn't come for me to have. It's to be. And as more as I give, more I receive. Not material things, cars and houses and travels. Peace of mind.
Yes, now I have a question. For example, if in a family which is really rich, and let's say the children doesn't need to do any task around the house because they might have cleaners. So, in which way can the parents teach the importance of the child to be ready to help in any way? Because they might think that we don't need to do it. So
when we come from this line that Grazi just said, the materialistic view of living, I have everything. My children will not be in need of clean the house. That is for the cleaner. You see my position? The nose up with my pride and selfishness. We have plenty of this. But as more as we evolve, and here we are not criticizing, we are learning through the experience that we went through or still may be going through. As more as we learn as immortal beings, question 614, God's laws, even as we will have the need to go through the experience of richness. But when we have the morality developed, the ethical values, even in that cases, I will teach my children to do the small tasks. I had close relationship with people who have plenty of money, and their children were obliged since the beginning to learn and to do the tasks at home. And when they were off on the university, the parents said, go and work for the 2 months, be useful in life. And a mother one day said to me, my children, they need to learn the real values in life. So the spirit who learns will always know how to behave and how to interact. Is that making sense? So it's important for us what we are learning, that we structure ourselves in that way when it comes to our time, that we can pass that on. Is that making sense? Yeah. Be useful. And then if they don't need to work at home, guide them towards charity, things later on. Educate them to be collaborating in the society. Get out of the selfishness. If we do that as parents and we are in front of helping, they will learn through our behaviors. But if we are absent, then it's more challenging. Then carry on in the book Fonte Viva by the benefactor Emmanuel. He says, the problem of personal happiness will never be solved by running away from the renewing process. What is he trying to say in relation to self-knowledge and happiness? How is that coming to us today?
We need to acknowledge and know about our shadows so we can change them. So this will bring the true happiness.
I like the word that Mano put here. The problem of personal happiness. Did you see that he put personal? What is he meaning here? Sorry?
Because it depends on each person.
Precisely. He is focusing, bringing the focus back to the individual. Doesn't matter if other people are unhappy. As children of God who bring the free will that God gives us, the laws of God within, we can choose on a personal level, in the worst scenarios, relatively be happy. Developing internal autonomy in making the right choices. Will be never solved by running away from the renewing process. Running away means when I ignore the possibilities that I ask as a spirit, coming back to earth to renew myself. Renewing process is part of the evolution process. We cannot evolve, we cannot progress if we don't renew, if you don't go through the renewing experiences that we need. If you run away, if I give you excuses, if I say, well, this is not for me, well, everything is here ready for us. If I run away means I'm not running away from things, I'm running away from myself. I'm running away through my irresponsibility. Because if I stay, then I learn in a responsible way and I become happier. I renew myself in the process of this existence, if we take it back to our existence here. Then we carry on in the Spirit's book. Grazie, read it for us, please. Question 101.
The inferior spirits see the happiness of the good spirits, and this observation constitutes them incessant torment, because it makes them experience all the anguish that envy and jealousy can cause.
We are very connected, aren't we? We just saw that, yes? So when we are inferior, incarnate or disincarnate, we are really hate others who are happy. We have envy. I can even drink. Huh? I have an aversion of those who are happy. I need to denigrate them. I need to really say negative things about. I want to impede what I do. Internally, I'm like that. Here we learn through the superior spirits, because it shows our own unhappiness. And where is the cause of our unhappiness? Question 614, Spirit's book. I resist to obey God's laws. Because I have been created by God with the seeds of happiness within. And it depends on me if I choose to carry on or not. But as long as I carry on, focus on others, and hating others, and complicate life with others, I will expand my own unhappiness up to the point that I separate myself. Is that making sense? That's very important. It's not what others did to us, it's what we do. We all are invited to be happy because we deserve to be happy. But we will never be happy when we hate each other, when we gossip about each other, when we slander about each other, when we complicate other people's lives. That is an illusion. That is based on our resistance of goodness that we bring within. That is the lack of self-love. Because self-love promotes us to self-respect and respect of others. Yeah? Then we carry on with Joana de Anjos in the book Eros, where she says, the more you love, the less you will be hit by evil, for your wider understanding will open the spaces to life, ripening only the effects of peace. That goes in relation to your question. How do I develop peace of mind? Or what you said previously. So what is Joana de Anjos teaching us here? Huh? What is the solution for us to free ourselves from the inferiority, from the shadows, from the conflicts? Run away, go on the top of the mountain, Is that what she says? No, you stay where you are and elevate yourself. Not in pride, elevate yourself in humbleness, in obedience, in sincerity, in fidelity with God. Then we are less affected because we have Jesus as our model, our example, our friend. Was he affected by our turbulences? No. So that is what we need to learn. We are in a perfect world with perfect people. It's starting with us. It's starting with us. Yeah? Then we carry on with Joanna Jones, who says, rejoice without complaint by applying the time that the Lord gives you in the construction of the new humanity in which you find yourself. What has that to do with self-knowledge and happiness?
I read the title of a book release that caught my attention. It said, stop complaining and get the life you want. And I was like, so if you're complaining, we're not acting.
No.
We need to stop complaining and actually get to action.
Stop complaining, get the life that you want means stop complaining, stop with your illusions from the ego level onwards and try moving forward, be useful towards the good of everyone, then we are developing the life that we want. And therefore, feeling happier. Dalai Lama says the following, Cynthia read it for us.
Happiness is a state of mind. If your mind is still in a state of confusion and agitation, material goods will not provide you with happiness. Happiness means peace of mind.
How we translate that now? Yes, take the picture. So we at least have the picture in our minds. Happiness is a state of mind. Exactly what we referred to previously, yes? A state of mind is based on how we feel, how we think and feel. If you are conscious or not, that is what it is. If your mind is still in a state of confusion and agitation, that means that I haven't learned a bit. I have learned just a bit about the natural laws. Material goods will not provide you with happiness. How many people have everything that they want on a material level? Travel up and down. Have you tried to travel within? It's free of charge. That is the great challenges. And here we go. Happiness cannot be traveled to, owned, earned, won, or consumed. Happiness is the spiritual experience of living every minute with love, grace, and gratitude. Do we have some insights how to learn to be happy now?
So you need lucidity.
You have lucidity. We need to be conscious. This is why we carry on self-knowledge, self-knowledge, self-knowledge. That will help us to become lucid, aware, so that we are not guided by our unconscious memories. Because we can be very purely spiritual when I free myself from the body. I am cooperating for the good of all. That's the pathway to conquer happiness. Cannot be born. I cannot buy happiness. Well, I can buy a good dress and I feel so good inside. That's good. I deserve that. I can do that. But real lasting happiness will not depend on that, because those who don't have money to buy the dress will be unhappy. God's laws are not like that. Is that making sense? Gratitude. We still are great in need. Read that for us, Susanna. Question 938 from the Spirit's book.
Couldn't the disappointments caused by ingratitude harden them heart and make it necessity? You should pity those who treat you in a way that you do not deserve, because they will suffer a sad recompense. Do not let yourselves be afflicted by them. It is a means for you to raise yourselves above them. Nature has given humans the need to love and to be loved.
What has that to do with self-knowledge and happiness? How could we translate? Can we be happy really without learning to love each other? No. When others are, let's say, wrong in relation to us. What is God asking us to do? Love them. Stop complaining. Stop requiring rights. We are here to develop our duties, which is to love, 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 love. Everyone, everywhere, all the time. Despite of what they do. Correct? That is a great challenge for us. Then Joanna says, in a happy relationship, one is never self-defensive, but self-receptive, knowing that all the phenomena resulting from it are learnings for future behaviors. How do I translate that in happiness? What do people do on earth? Not ourselves, of course. Are we more self-defensive or self-receptive in our relationships? Self-defensive. Why? And why? How do we feel when we are self-defensive? Simple, unhappy. So when we train ourselves to be self-receptive, how do we feel? Happy. Simple. Happy. You see self-knowledge. But the Spirit says, so simple to live on earth. Gradually we are understanding. And then as more as we train ourselves, we are developing new future behaviors of being happier and happier. That making sense? Then we conclude by the thought by Mario Quintana. Cynthia, read it very loud for us.
That's what love is. Doesn't arrest you, doesn't squeeze you, doesn't suffocate you. Because when it becomes a knot, it's no longer a connection.
What has well, I don't know why you're laughing and looking at these funny faces. What has that to do with happiness? What are we learning through our self-knowledge through this phase, the phrase by Mario Quintana? What is it teaching us?
It's teaching that love is a connection and it's simple. It's not knots or squishing or it doesn't suffocate. It frees us and it's light.
Mm-hmm. Where are you, Cynthia?
I'll pass to her.
Where are you, Susanna?
Yeah, when you feel happiness or when you feel love, you feel free. You don't feel like the weight of life.
Okay. What is love? God. God is love, isn't it? So when we learn to love God's laws and live accordingly, will we arrest others, persecute others, diminish others? Will we squeeze others? When we say squeeze, does it mean only physically? Because sometimes people do still squeeze each other, yeah? Physically. Look at the child. How can we squeeze psychological and emotional someone? Pressure. Demanding. Jealousy also. Jealousy is a great squeezing. Put them against the wall, as we say, yes? Or ignorance. How do we suffocate others?
Too much complaint.
Too much complaint all the time. Come home complaining. You never do things right. Everything is always wrong. The way that you do is not right. The bad you did is really wrong. Everything is wrong. Go there. It's not so. Then I complain. Then my husband, who's the hoover, well, the corner is not hoovered. I complain about everything. Well, it's raining. When I meet people, first thing I say, gosh, so cold. It's horrible cold. Then it's raining. Well, it's really raining. So wet. Then it's saying, oh gosh, it's so hot. Do we know what we want? Are we not talking about God? Rain, sun, wind. Is that not God? The expression of God through nature for us? Can we see our relationship with God? Can we see why we are so unhappy? But now we know how to cultivate happiness. We may go through the reflections that we went through today afterwards, the records will be there in our YouTube page and Facebook. And in that way we are coming to the end. And in these final moments, in this gathering, as brothers and sisters in humanity as we are, ourselves and all of those in spirit who are here with us, members of the great family of the universal family, expressing our gratitude for these unique and special moments, our gratitude for the help of the benefactors, the sincere, devoted servants of Christ and God, helping always us, because they have been here before us, organizing, cleansing the atmosphere, helping us, inspiring us. Our gratitude for Spiritism, which is inspiring our lives towards a pathway of our evolution, towards a pathway to conquering real happiness. Our gratitude for Jesus, the Master and Guide, friend of all of us, for once more presenting his message that liberates us from our selfishness, from our pride, from our vanity, from our ignorance, as immortal beings as we all are. Our gratitude towards God, the Creator for everything and everyone, for his infinite love and mercy towards all of us. Our gratitude for this existence, for us who are on earth. Our gratitude for all the possibilities, through the opportunities that life presents us, for us to exercise the virtues within, for us to choose to be better today than yesterday, and tomorrow better than today, training our free will according to the will of God, who created us with love in order for us to learn to love ourselves, to love others, to love life, to be grateful in all moments, within so many blessings that are given to all of us. So good. Much peace to all, and hope to see you next week.